Good day, everyone. We are the Group 2. Our research study is entitled Status of Philippine Folk Dances Among 21st Century Students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus.
Statement of the problem. This study aimed to determine the state of Philippine folk dances in the 21st century students at NEUST San Isidro campus. Specifically, it sought to answer the following questions. Number 1, profile of the respondents. Number 2, how may the status of the Philippine folk dances be assessed in terms of familiarity of respondents towards the status of Philippine folk dances? Number 3, identify the source of familiarity or information of the respondent about Philippine folk dances. Number 4, what are the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances? Number 5, is there any significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of the Philippine folk dances? Number 6, is there any significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances? And number 7, is there any significant relationship between the status of Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances?
Null hypothesis 1. There is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances among the 21st century students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus. 2. There is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dance among 21st century students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology. 3. There is no significant relationship between the status of Philippine folk dances among the 21st century students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus, and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances. Significance of the study. To the parents, to be able for parents to expose their children to Philippine folk dances and support their children to carry its importance to the next generation. To the teachers, they would be able to increase the students' cultural awareness by integrating Philippine folk dances to their classroom activities. To the communities, this study will help Filipino citizens to realize the vital role that they play in order to preserve the culture of Philippine folk dances. To the students, this study will help students to become aware and knowledgeable about the status of the different Philippine folk dances. To the future researchers, the future researchers may use this study as a foundation of their research. They can use the study as pattern to their research could be more valid and acceptable. Scope and the limitation. The main objective of this study is to determine the status of Philippine folk dances. The first and second year education student of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus, in the academic year 2022 to 2023 will be respondents of this study. The study will be conducted at Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus, which is located at Abad Avenue, Poblacion, San Isidro, Nueva Ecija, to be feasible and efficient in order to be time constrained. Definition of terms. Contemporary art. The term used for art of the present day. Culture, defined as well the ways of life including arts, beliefs, and institutions of population that are passed down from generation to generation. Ethnic. It means connected with or relating to different racial or cultural groups of people. Folk dance. It is dance that reflects the life of a people of a certain country or region. Not all ethnic dances are folk dances. Globalization, used to describe the growing interdependence of world's economics, culture, and population. Rifi, make more concrete or real. Ritualization, a behavior that occurs typically in a member of a given species in a highly stereotyped fashion and independent of any direct psychological significance. Status, the relative, social, professional, and other standing for someone or something.
The review of related literature is an essential part of any research study. It provides a critical analysis of existing literature and research related to the research topic, highlighting the gaps, inconsistencies, and areas of consensus. In the context of the status of Philippine folk dances among 21st century students, the review of related literature serves as a foundation for understanding the cultural and educational context of Philippine folk dances and its relevance to contemporary students. In Section H, this research is particularly relevant to our study on the status of Philippine folk dances among 21st century students. It highlights the importance of students' interest and motivation towards folk dancing, which can be a key factor in promoting and preserving this cultural heritage. By understanding the factors that drive students' interest and motivation towards folk dancing, we can design educational programs and activities that better engage and inspire your learners. In year level and course, this study is particularly relevant to our research on the status of Philippine folk dances among 21st century students, as it highlights the challenges and opportunities in teaching and promoting folk dancing to the students in physical education programs. By understanding the current level of knowledge and skills among students, we can better design educational interventions and activities that cater to their needs and facilitate their growth as learners and performers. In knowledge or familiarity about Philippine folk dances, this study suggests that students' general knowledge about folk dancing reflects their overall cultural awareness, which can be influenced by various factors such as education, family, background, and exposure to cultural events and activities. By measuring students' cultural awareness through their knowledge of folk dancing, we can better understand the factors that contribute to their interest and engagement in traditional art forms like Philippine folk dances. In Philippine folk dances, this literature provides important context for understanding the role of folk dance in Filipino culture and highlights the need to promote and preserve traditional art forms like Philippine folk dances among 21st century students. By recognizing the cultural significance of these art forms and working to promote their appreciation and preservation, we can ensure that they continue to be valued and enjoyed by future generations. Source of knowledge about Philippine folk dances. The research conducted by Howard emphasizes that featuring folk dances in classes and programs in ways that respect diverse musical cultures requires a collaborative effort between teachers and students to select a multicultural dance repertoire. This approach allows for the inclusion of a wide range of dance forms, including traditional dances from different regions in the Philippines, which can help to promote a sense of cultural pride and identity among students. This literature provides important insight into the importance of promoting diversity and inclusivity in dance education programs, and highlights the role that teachers and students can play in collaborating to select a multicultural dance repertoire that reflects and respects the diverse musical cultures of the Philippines. This approach can help to promote a sense of cultural pride and identity among students, as well as promote cross-cultural understanding and challenge stereotypes. factors affecting the Philippine folk dances. While it is important to preserve the traditional aspect of folk dances, it is equally important to recognize that these dances can and should evolve over time to remain relevant and engaging for contemporary audiences. This requires a balance between maintaining an integrity of the dance form while also allowing for creative interpretation and experimentation. The concept of evolution and adaptation is particularly relevant in the context of 21st century students who are growing rapidly changing cultural and technological environment. Educators and students can work together to ensure that Philippine folk dances will remain vibrant and relevant in students' society today.
Research methodology. Research design. The descriptive correlational research design method will be used in obtaining information needed in the study. It is designed to study changes in one characteristic or phenomena that correspond to another. The descriptive research design will be used in the study because it's aimed to identify the status of Philippine folk dances in the 21st century. Sample and sampling technique. The respondents of this study are the first and second year College of Education students that will be randomly selected at Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro Campus, school year 2022-2023. The first and second year students were chosen because they are included in 21st century learners. Research instrumentation. The first part of the instrument consists items that will gather the information, demographic profile of the respondents such as their name, age, sex, year level, and courses. The second part of the questionnaire inquires about the familiarity of the respondents with the Philippine folk dances. The third part of the questionnaire deals with the hindering factors in Philippine folk dances. Statistical treatment of data. Frequency and percentage was used to determine the proportion of the respondents who answer in a certain way. The weighted mean. It is the mean of each weighted value when it is multiplied by some weight. It determines the level of an agreement that respondent mostly mark. Pearson correlation was used to determine the relationship between the profile of the respondents and their knowledge and familiarity with the Philippine folk dances.
And now, this is the chapter 4, the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. First is the socio-demographic characteristic of the respondents. To address the first statement of the problem, the socio-demographic characteristic of the respondents was discussed using the frequency and percentage. It is necessary to identify and analyze the different factors that can affect the status of Philippine folk dances. The profile of 180 respondents was described in terms of sex, age, and course. And this is the table 1, the frequency distribution of the respondents according to sex. In male, we have 36, which is 20%, and 144 female, which is 80%. The table 1 shows that out of 180 respondents, 36 or 20% were males and 144 or 80% were females. This shows that were more female respondents than male respondents. Next is the table 2, frequency distribution of the respondents according to age. We have 17 to 20 years old, 21 to 29 years old, 30 years old, and above. The table 2 shows the age of the respondents. 86.7% of the respondents are ages 17 to 20 with a total of 156, while 12% or 12.8% of the respondents are ages 21 to 29 with a total of 23, and one of the respondents is 31 and above with an average of 0.5% with a total of 1. This data implied the most of the respondents are 17 to 20 years old. Is table number 3. Frequency distribution of the respondents according to course. We have BSED, BEd, BPE, and BSIE. Table 3 shows the course of the respondents, which is 38.9% of the respondents are BSE or Bachelor of Secondary Education, with no particular majors. Students with a total of 70, 23.9% of the respondents are Bachelor of Elementary Education students with a total of 43, while 19.4% of the respondents are Bachelor of Physical Education students with a total of 35, and 17.8% of the respondents are BSIE students with a total of 32. The data shows that the most of the respondents are from BSE or Bachelor of Secondary Education students. Table 4 is the familiarity of respondents towards the status of Philippine folk dances, and here are the items: the mean and standard deviation, and the verbal interpretation. The table 4 shows the distribution of the response of first year and second year students of College of Education of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology San Isidro Campus in terms of familiarity of the respondents towards Philippine folk dances as demonstrated in the table above. Item number 1, in the countryside dances, I am familiar about the folk dance. Tinikling received the highest weighted mean of 3.79 and the verbal interpreted as strongly agree. On the other hand, item number 4, in Muslim group dance, Por, I am familiar about the folk dance. Asik received the lowest weight mean of 1.99 and verbally interpreted as disagree. Overall, the first year and second year students of College of Education at Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology San Isidro Campus response to the familiarity towards the Philippine folk dances have an average of 2.50 and verbally interpreted as disagree. Similar to the study of Reyes 2002, the study showed that the students have little experience in regards to Philippine folk dance with a weighted mean of 2.37 and verbally interpreted as low. Moreover, the results of the study was contradicting the study of Poralan 2012. They revealed that the level of cultural awareness on Philippine folk dances of secondary students at Davao City is good. Table 5, sources of familiarity or information about Philippine folk dances. First, we have the teachers, parents, friends, books or ebooks, television, school, society, internet, social media applications, 10, and documentaries. The table 5 shows the distribution of response of first year and second year students of College of Education of San Isidro Campus, Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology. In terms of sources of familiarity or information about Philippine folk dances. As illustrated in the table above, it shows the item number 2, parents receive the highest weighted mean with 1.37 and verbally interpreted as yes, while the item number 1, which is the teachers, received the lowest weighted mean with 1.00 and verbally interpreted as yes. Overall, the first year and second year students of College of Education of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology San Isidro Campus responds to the source of familiarity and information about Philippine folk dances have an average of 1.15 and verbally interpreted as yes. Similar to the study of Domingo, 2018, findings revealed that the folk dance documentation practices in the Philippines involve ethical consideration, methodology, actual dance documentation, evaluation, and output. Through the different documentation methods and autonomous practice, advanced enthusiasts would be able to learn and understand further the multiplied forms and styles of their field.
Shows the distribution of response of first year and second year students of College of Education of Nueva Ecija University and Science and Technology San Isidro Campus in terms of hindering factors in learning Philippine folk dance. As demonstrated in the table above, item number 8, I have difficulties in my body to dance Philippine folk dances, received the highest weighted mean of 2.88. and verbally interpreted as agreed. On the other hand, item number 10, I have comorbidity that hinders me in dancing Philippine folk dances, received the lowest weighted mean of 1.44 and verbally interpreted as disagreed. Overall, the first and second year student of College of Education of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology San Isidro Campus response to the hindering factors in learning Philippine folk dances have an average of 2.26 and verbally interpreted as disagreed. In contrast to the study of Reyes et al. 2020, the study showed that the level of interest of BSED students specializing in MAPE in folk dances in terms of learning the dance steps is high with weighted mean of 3.57. Next, table 7. Shows the correlational coefficients between the course of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances. The table above shows that course and the status of the Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship as it has a correlation coefficient of 0.09. While the age and the status of Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship as well with a correlation coefficient of negative 0.05. On the other hand, sex and the status of the Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship, also with 0.08 correlation coefficient. Overall, the profile of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship. Therefore, the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of the Philippine folk dances is accepted. Similar to the study of Panganiban 2018, reveals that the sex and the type of the high school where the respondents graduated from were not significantly related to the attitude of the respondents toward folk dancing. This made the researchers accept the null hypothesis that sex and type of school were not significantly related to the respondents' observed attitudes. This means that these considered factors do not significantly affect the attitude of the respondent. Next, Table 8. Table 8 shows the correlational coefficient between the course of the respondents and the factors affecting the status of the Philippine folk dance. The table shows that course and factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dance has no significant relationship as it has a correlation coefficient of negative 0.13. While the age and factors affecting the status of the Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship, as well with a correlation coefficient of 0.04. On the other hand, sex and the factors affecting status of Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship also, with negative 0.09 of correlation coefficient. Overall, the profile of the respondents and factor affecting the status of Philippine folk dance has no significant relationship. Therefore, the null hypothesis that there is a significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances is not accepted. similar to the study of Panganiban TD 2018, revealed that there is no significant difference exists on the attitude towards folk dancing between the respondents coming from public high school as compared to their private high school graduate counterparts. Next, Table 9. Table 9 shows the correlational coefficient between the status of the Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances. The table above shows that the status of the Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dance has no significant relationship, as it has a correlation coefficient of negative 0.09. Overall, the status of the Philippine folk dance and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances has no significant relationship. Therefore, the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of the Philippine folk dances is accepted. Moreover, the result of the study was contradicting with the study of Oralan 2012, revealed that the level of cultural awareness on Philippine folk dances of secondary students of Davao City is good. The similarity of the finding can also be proved by the study of Brito 2001, observed the students' positive responses were due to motivation and belief that folk dancing activities has recreational, social, and cultural value.
So moving on, we have the chapter 5, the summary, conclusion, and recommendations. Summary of findings. This study aimed to determine the status of Philippine folk dances among 21st century students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro campus. It also aimed to determine the relationship between demographic variables on students' outcome of the status of Philippine folk dances, familiarity, and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances. The findings of the study are summarized as follows. First, we have the social demographic characteristic of the respondents. 1.16. From the total of 108 respondents, there were 144 female and 36 male students. 1.2 age. From the 108 respondents, the bracket of 17 to 20 years old had the highest frequency of 156, and the bracket of 21 to 29 years old had a frequency of 23, while the bracket of 30 and above years old had the lowest frequency of 1. 1.3 course. From 108 respondents, Bachelor of Secondary Education got the lead of respondents with frequency of 70 or 38.9%. Bachelor of Elementary Education students had a frequency of 43 or 23.9%, followed by the BPED students or Bachelor of Physical Education with a frequency of 35 or 19.4%, and the lowest frequency from BSIE or Bachelor of Science in Industrial Education with a frequency of 32 or 17.8%. Number 2, familiarity of respondents toward the status of Philippine folk dances. Respondents from first and second year students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, San Isidro campus disagreed to the familiarity towards the Philippine folk dance, indicating that they have later experiences about the Philippine folk dances. 3, we have the sources of familiarity or information about Philippine folk dances. The respondent sources of their familiarity or information about Philippine folk dances are from teachers, parents, friends, ebooks, books, television, school, society, internet, social media applications, and documentation. Number 4, we have hindering factors in learning Philippine folk dances. The majority of the respondents from the first and second year students of Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology San Isidro campus disagreed to the hindrances that may factors the learning of Philippine folk dances. 5. Relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances. There is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances. 6. Relationship between the profile of the respondents and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances. The respondents' outcome in terms of the factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances has no significant effect, indicating that there is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the status of Philippine folk dances. 7, we have the relationship between the status of Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances. The findings show that in terms of relationship between the status of Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances, there are no significant relationship. Moving on to the conclusions. Based on the findings of the study, the following conclusions are drawn. First, the majority of the students were female with the age of 17 to 20 years old. Also, they are from first and second year student that got a lead from Bachelor of Secondary Education or BSED. Second, the researchers found out that they are not familiar with the most of folk dances from Cordillera, Western, Muslim, and countryside group dances. Third, the researchers found out that there are a lot of sources of information in Philippine folk dances. Fourth, the researchers found out that the respondents disagreed to the hindrances that may factor in learning the Philippine folk dances. Fifth, the findings showed that in terms of respondents' profile and the status of Philippine folk dances, there are no significant relationship. Sixth, the findings showed that in terms of respondents' profile and hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances, there are no significant relationship. It indicates that the student is not affected by those hindrances. Lastly, the findings showed that in terms of relationship between the status of Philippine folk dances and the hindering factors affecting the status of Philippine folk dances, there are no significant relationship.
Recommendation. Based on the findings and conclusion of this study, the following are recommended. 1. Teachers may A. Teachers could explore ways to address hindrances that may factors in learning Philippine folk dances such as lack of interest or limited access to resource. B. Teachers could continue to promote the value of Philippine folk dances to students regardless of their demographic profile. C. Teachers could identify and address any potential hindrances that may affect students' or interest or ability to learn Philippine folk dances. 2. Students may connect with local dance group or cultural organization to further develop their skills and knowledge about Philippine folk dances. B. Continuously seek out new sources of information and techniques to improve their understanding and execution of Philippine folk dances. C. Students can share their passion for this dance with others and encourage their peers to learn and appreciate them as well. School administrators may acknowledge and support students' interest in Philippine folk dances. B. Encourage the formation of dance groups or clubs that specialize in Philippine folk dances. C. Collaborate with local dance groups or cultural organizations to provide the students with access to professional instruction and performance opportunity. 4. Future researchers may use this study as foundation of the research. B. They can use the study as pattern so the research could be more valid and acceptable.